make storytelling a little bit more exciting. So we had our first meeting. So Isaac and I never knew each other until we met that first time to talk about AR and what was happening in that space. And then 2 meetings after, we had come up with our first concept, which was Manu's Journeys. We partnered up with an organisation called South Auckland Families, who helped us co-design the entire experience with us. Rapid prototyped, I think it was 5 weeks, and we had an app in the store, pushed out 6 stories on that platform, and then launched it at a big event that Happy Families were hosting. So the app that we were working on was designed to get people active, get them moving outdoors, and in particular highlight Punui Stream, which was one of the neglected waterways in South Auckland, but it had this real rich cultural narrative behind it. So we did that. We launched the first prototype of Manu, and then about 5 or 6 weeks after that launch, we had our first contract. So someone had come through and they're like, love what you're doing. We're getting these po carved. How do we tell the story of the po with an augmented reality character? We fleshed that idea out a bit and then kind of discovered that we had to be a preferred supplier for this organisation. So Isaac and I were like, oh, we better go register our company now. So that kind of all happened in this mass rush flow. And then in March 2018, Isaac and I started ARA Journeys. So I thought the best way to show you what we've been up to between 2018 and 2019 is to play our High Tech Awards video for you. ARA was established with the purpose of preserving the Indigenous stories of New Zealand. Inspired by and growing on Mātauranga Māori, we design interactive augmented reality games that take you on a journey through whakapapa. We believe there's tremendous value in enabling iwi to share their stories in a way that they want to share them. With geolocation, our Tairāwhiti Manu app enables us to direct tourists to particular sites to get stories that may not have been told, making Manu a 21st century waypoint. We know kids are digital natives, and we know that they enjoy games. So we gamified our adventure into an app, but we didn't stop there. We also created the first bilingual augmented reality character that encourages us all to learn Te Reo Māori. Many Māori no longer have a strong connection with the whaiao, the environment, or the cultural stories that connect us to the environment, particularly in urban settings. With the passing of our tiku, of our kaumātua, we're losing many of those stories. We're on a journey guided by our tūpuna. We're learning how to navigate and connect in today's world. Kia whakatōmuri, kia waia, whakamua. My past is my present, is my future. So yeah, in 2018 we launched. In 2019 we made finalists for High Tech Award, New Zealand High Tech Awards, because we had the first gaming augmented reality character that could give you a full AR experience delivered in Te Reo Māori, which no one had kind of captured at that stage. I think there's a few out at the moment though. Now, also in 2019, we hired Ben as our CTO because we kind of figured we've got this gaming company, but neither Isaac or I had any knowledge of gaming whatsoever. So we had the ideas, and Ben was like the one that kind of wrapped it all up and then kind of went, no, that's not going to work in a gaming environment, and fixed everything for us basically. 2019, we also got invited to share our work as part of the Rise High Tech Conference that was held in Hong Kong. Really cool learnings from that experience is Indigenous knowledge is quite similar across all cultures. So we took the Maramataka story for Manu and showcased that across, I think it was something like 20,000 visitors throughout the time we were there, and just about every country was probably represented. The majority of them could see themselves in Manu or see their own stories in Manu, which was like a real cool learnings for us. Yeah, and they liked the work too. Like they commented on how slick the work was, and we're like, yes, because you know, going over there and there's all the anime and animations, and they're quite high tech over there, but they recognised the quality, which was really cool. So how did we get into Indigenous systems in gaming? Well, first off, what is a system? System is a group of interacting entities that form a unified whole. I first learnt the 1 + 1 = 3 concept from a webinar that Johnny Freeland hosted. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with who Johnny is. Johnny's done a lot of work around Indigenous systems approach. He also started Team Bros, which is a group that participates in Iron Māori. And it was during his kōrero where he spoke about being part of nature and the importance of being anchored to place. And that kind of really resonated with the work that we were doing, only we didn't really know that there was this whole Indigenous systems approach. And so with his saying with 1 + 1 = 3, it's like 1 being me, 1 being you, but the 3 is because it's all of us, it's a we. So I really love that. I'm no expert in Indigenous systems or mātauranga Māori. I'm still learning myself. But through my mahi and working with Anaru and Alex from South Auckland Families, we've really learnt the value of Indigenous systems thinking and how the gaming industry could embrace this to create better outcomes for people. So the best way to showcase this is to take you through our journey and the lessons we've learned along the way to truly understand the value and the place of traditional knowledge, of Indigenous knowledge and gaming, and kind of how we came to really understand the influence gamers and mobile games can have in building economic change and creating real world outcomes. So why did we get into gaming? Because we could have gone down many other paths, not just the gaming path. Well, the positives for gaming, they improve visual processes, like there's other positives too, but these were like the 3 main ones. They enhance executive functioning and they improve working memory function. But along with the positives, there's the negatives. They're addictive. They have been proven to make people more violent and they make increased depression. But what does that mean for a business? Well, as a business, the positives, they boost consumer engagement and retention. So it's one thing to just create an app and you put it up in the App Store and people use it. And then they're like, okay, now what? Like, what do I do now? And this is one of the advantages that we found that came out of gaming. It created that constant consumer engagement and retention and wanting to re-engage with the product again. The increased flow-on effect from gamers sharing experience. So looking at making our work go viral, looking at how we leverage gamification to expand markets and expand exposure for what we're doing. And then like the gaming concept itself, it satisfies basic need of fulfillment. So people, you know, they feel happy when they're rewarded or they've beaten a challenge or, you know, they've done something really well and they get a reward for it. So with all of this in mind, we decided that we would focus on mobile gaming because video gaming in itself is quite a populated market. There's a lot of people doing it and a lot of people doing it really, really, really well. So we were like, okay, well, let's look at how we utilize mobile gaming. The advantages for mobile gaming is we can shift people outside. So you're no longer stuck in front of a screen and stuck in front of a computer. Your kids aren't like in their rooms hard out on Fortnite. I don't know if anyone's got kids who play Fortnite. My son's like such a horrible person when he plays Fortnite because, and it's that same addiction, right? They're in there and they're like aiming away. All you hear is like language coming out of the room and then he comes out in this bad attitude and you know he's lost and stuff. So yeah, we wanted to move away from that and look at how gaming can be used for good because we don't want like more kids like that coming through and just being like, yeah, not nice people. And basically drove the whole house nuts with that game. So Pokemon Go. Has anyone played Pokemon Go? Yeah, Pokemon Go was really cool in that it proved that gaming, if done right, will get people outside. So that's when we started looking at the geolocation side of gaming and the advantages that that kind of technology could have in the space that we were looking to get into. But what we didn't like about Pokemon Go was that there was no education behind it. It's like, what were we, like, you go out and you collect all these Pokemon, and that's really, really cool. And if you're a Pokemon follower or a Pokemon fan, like, that's a highlight for you. But if you're not, it's like, what do I get out of it? And stuff. I never got into Pokemon, but I went and played anyway. And it was that feeling. It's like, oh, cool, I got this Pokemon. Oh, yeah, that's cool. And then the app kind of died down. And I think one of the lessons learned from Pokemon too is that it wasn't the geolocation game that made it really popular, it was the brand. So Pokemon had a huge following before it even came into the AR space, and they leveraged that brand identity there to kind of get the population around the game. But for us, it did show that if you built the game right and you put the right aspects in place, that people who would not normally move outside were willing to go outside.
So, would you say it wasn't the geolocation as much as what was important to Pokemon Go players?
The brand.
Oh, brand. Oh,
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Yes. So they were like, Pokemon's got like a really large brand as it is. They had followers before they even hit the market with the augmented reality, and then having that immersive experience on top, like being able to catch your own Pokemon for a Pokemon fan was like the ultimate. I had friends that traveled like from Auckland to Tauranga to catch Pokemon, and these are like adults, like 30 something. I'm like, are you serious? Yeah. I was like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm on my way to Tauranga. What are you doing there? I'm catching Pokemon. So yeah, huge brand following, cool game, but no educational content. And it comes back to that, what is it for? So we, based on the addictive behaviours of gamification, because kids do get addicted to it, and people using technology to play games, that's when we started moving into that geolocation space. And it proved to us that if we added the right educational content, whether we had a huge brand following or not, we could most probably get people outdoors with the right story. So this is actually the first prototype that we delivered. Oh, the image hasn't come up. Marker-based, and I've got one of the markers here I can show you later. Designed for that Punui Stream Challenge that I told you about. And we launched it at the event, and I can't remember how many people actually attended that event. I think it was like 400 or something. And at every kilometre, we had an activation where Manu told you a different story, all related to that stream and the mana whenua from the area. And then that was the benchmark one for the other Manu character that was in the video. So that was the second contract that we ended up doing. So, this is the other end of that game actually, that first Manu prototype. So moving on from the geolocation, mobile gaming, because we knew we wanted to play in that space and we could do some really cool stuff in that space. But we didn't want to just be like Pokemon Go. We didn't want to create games for the sake of creating games. Not interested in Candy Crush and Angry Birds and all those really popular games, because again, no point to them. But they are fun. So we looked at the education side of things. One of the best compliments we've ever received was from a mum at an event who was really anti-devices. Her kids must have been around 6, 7, I think, primary school age kids. She was not having a bar of it, anti-devices, didn't think that our company was doing any good for the kids because we were just adding another game into the system. Yeah, she didn't actually have really nice things to say to us. But we had a chat to her and we took her through the Manu journeys, what he's talked about, the storyline, and then showed her how it all worked. So she went away and we didn't really hear back from her, and we thought, oh, okay, she probably didn't go and try it because she had it on her phone. And then that same evening, I got an email from the lady, and she said that she was the one that had spoken to me and was anti it. And she said that since doing that activation, the Manu activation, she decided to buy her kids a tablet because she could see the value in educational apps and using tech in that space. She loved the fact, in the end, after she had experienced it, she loved the fact that she could go out to the park now, where this event was, and her kids would quite happily go along on their device, learn about the area, learn about the mana whenua that lived there, learn about how they lived off the land while she could do her daily walk in peace. So yeah, that was probably one of the best compliments we've had. We managed to change behaviour. So that that Manu was like our benchmark kind of gaming, and where we kind of saw ourselves sitting in that space. But we wanted to do more. We wanted to not only leverage our culture and our heritage, but we wanted to do more for the environment. So we were looking at different ways that we might make that possible using our same technologies, and how we can create better outcomes, or really, I think, create opportunities for people to reconnect with their environment. So this is when we decided that we're going to kind of have a little play in the area of gaming Māori knowledge and Western science. And there's been a little bit of work done in that space, I think, over the last year and a bit, which we could learn from as well, some of the concepts, some of the learning frameworks that came out of that. And that's what we did. We learnt about how we might overlay mātauranga Māori kind of in a Western science world. And this is kind of where our journey around data came to play, and the importance and value of data at a community level and stuff. So we were looking at, creating better outcomes for our communities. How do we do this? How are we going to shift mindsets and behaviours? So again, we went back to Healthy Families, who helped us with our other builds, talked to them about like what we could be doing in that space to be doing it better, and talked about how we could really disrupt the systems in place, because that wasn't happening at the moment. Our systems, we think, are broken, because the people making decisions for us, they're not the ones living in the community and stuff. And this is something that we thought we could tackle with collecting data, with the environment, with Indigenous knowledge. But we didn't have the right information to go back to them. So at around that same time, Callaghan Sea Prize Challenge came out. So Sea Prize Challenge is an environmental science challenge where they're looking at how tech can be used in the environmental space to create a healthier environment across New Zealand. We applied for that Sea Prize. We made top 10, and the concept that we pitched was in partnership with OMG Tech, because they're a little bit more experienced in the environmental sciences side than we are. So we teamed up with another company for this one. Partnered with OMG Tech, pitched, made top 10, and our concept was around citizen science and how we gamify citizen science projects. So if you're not familiar with a citizen science project, it's basically anyone can go out and collect data that is then fed back into these big research projects, normally led by universities or research institutes or CRIs. But it's an opportunity to capture data, feed it back, have impact, and have an outcome in the real world. But we wanted to gamify that whole system, because it came back again to like, how do you use an app, right? They have the same problem with citizen science projects. People go out, they collect data, but that's it. They don't want to go back and do it. And well, it's not fun, like going back to do the same thing twice. So we looked at putting a whole gamification layer over that. And that's how we came up with Ahika Rangers, which is our ecological game designed to mobilise gamers to collect environmental data by participating in citizen science activities. So Ahika Rangers can be played by anyone. It's designed to be a global platform to collect data within every 5-kilometre radius. And that data can be anything from cracks on buildings to pictures of monarch butterflies in your backyard to measuring the coastal activity by just like taking images every time you're at the beach, which is really rich data, because it helps us track climate, it helps us track environmental change, and it helps us give the data back to government so that they can make better informed decisions on how they invest and how they create for our spaces and places. So to give you a look at what that game looks like, this is how the citizen science fits into our Ahika Rangers game.
Kia ora, and welcome to this demonstration for the missions in Ahika Ranges, the mobile game where you balance a living ecosystem, create a network of friends, and participate in real-world citizen science projects for in-game bonuses. You and your rangers will grow and care for a mountain covered in a complex and dynamic network of unique biomes. Here is my mountain. I've just started and only have 2 biomes unlocked, a mangrove and a river. The game will try to make learning how to care for an ecosystem a little more accessible by hinting at potential imbalances in your biomes. For example, my river has too many beasts and critters, and my mangrove has no giants. Most importantly though, my mangrove is currently indicated as being in danger of having a trophic cascade because it doesn't have enough critters. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's take a closer look. When you zoom into the 3D view, you can rotate your biome to examine its creatures and other elements. You can see the neighboring biomes here. For example, this mangrove is right next to the river, as shown in the previous map view. This is important because every biome will affect the biomes around it, creating a very dynamic and organic system to manage. Other external factors will influence your biomes too, such as weather and other events. Other players can send their rangers to tend to your biomes as well. But for now, let's just focus on the trophic cascade. Now the game explains the simulated real-world phenomena. For example, trophic cascades are big changes that ripple throughout an entire ecosystem, and how this information is important to the game. Learn early what will imbalance your biomes. For example, keystone animals are a particular species that can indirectly prevent a trophic cascade. Make sure to keep a close eye on the health of your keystone animals in your biomes. Then, before I go back to the game, it gives me an interesting piece of information. Did you know, for example, crabs make good things happen to the entire mangrove ecosystem by aerating the soil when they burrow? And you'll note that these are also referenced. Now I'm back to the game, and I can see that my critters, which are the keystone animals for mangroves, are in need of attention. I'm going to see what I can do to fix this. But oh no, I don't have enough Ra. Ra is one of the most powerful resources in the game. It's used to buy the coolest items, upgrades, and expansions, and is even used to speed up your actions. You can get Ra by helping other rangers look after their mountains and certain in-game achievements, but the best source of Ra is missions, where you collect real-world data for in-game bonuses. Let's try it. This is my mission feed. You see I have favorited 2 missions here, but I can see all filtered missions in a list which is currently sorted by distance based on my current location settings. From this list, I should be able to get a pretty good idea of how hard the mission will be for me and what rewards I'll get. For example, if I need to take a photo or a sound recording, and how much Ra or hide or lumber I'll receive. But if I go back to the start, the game has recommended a mission to me even though it's not a favorite. Maybe because it's new, or maybe it has a boost to its rewards. This screen gives me a brief overview of the project, including a title, quick description of the goal of the research, an image showing the type of activity I'll be doing, what type of data I'll be collecting, and the rewards I'll get for each submission. I'm going to select this mission, which will take me to the missions progress screen. Before I start, the game tells me that for this mission, I'll need to go to a location about the size of a backyard and fill in the answers below about monarch butterflies that I find and take 1 photo. It also has some information about how I can repeat the mission. Selecting to upload my photo will open my phone's camera, and the app will ensure that it can retrieve the location and date metadata. Once I have taken a photo of my monarch or pupa, I can complete the questions below. For example, how many monarchs I found in total, how many of them had broken wings or couldn't fly, etc. There is more detailed information about the research below if I want to know more. I can also see my rewards. In this case, the rewards are shown very last, as if I had my app set to citizen science mode, where the game itself is essentially hidden from the user so they can simply use it for citizen science projects only. Not that I ever would, because I like ecosystem management games. So now I've finished collecting my data, I'm going to submit my form. Once the data is validated, I'll receive my bonus RA and I can get to work. In essence, doing citizen science projects will give players a slight advantage over those who don't. The game is still playable without having to do any data collection, but the intention is that users will be motivated to graduate from game player to citizen science participant. Thanks for watching this demonstration for the mission system in Ahika Ranges.
So that's
Kia ora, and welcome to this demonstration for the mission.
So that's a little bit what we're doing with Ahika Ranges. And I think the really cool things to point out with that game is, one, you can't win by fighting with other people or destroying other people's islands. You actually earn points by working together and helping each other. The game's designed to be played as a standalone game itself or as a citizen science game where you just collect data if you don't want to worry about the systems management side of things. The information that Ben talks about earlier on around managing your ecosystem, that's based on real life information and knowledge, and that, so it is a full educational game. The platform's been designed to run alongside school curriculum, so schools who want to put their own science projects into the game can, and we can actually section off that part of the game so it is either open to the whole community or only open to the school or only open to a class. And then teachers get access to the back end of that platform if they want to see the grades or see what their students have been up to and what data they've been collecting. Another piece of information with that game, and another one that we've currently got in the build at the moment, is we've designed the platforms to include information around the maramataka. So one of the things that we're playing with is, because it's points based, is looking at, okay, well, on our high energy days or on our tangaroa days, let's boost up the points for the citizen science projects that are related to the water or the coastline or the ngahere, or on give back days we put in some mini missions in there, which might be collecting rubbish from your neighbour around your neighbourhood, or picking up rubbish from the beach and earning points that way. The other aspect of the maramataka we're looking to implement across all our games is shutting them down on federal days, and zeroing out all the points to give gamers a break from that kind of addictive behaviour and that addictive gaming behaviour, so they actually don't get any points. We encourage them to stay home and do something else. Read a book. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're heading in that space and how we're overlaying some of that Indigenous knowledge. So, which brings me to the next bit about community. And I really love this quote from Anaru. So Anaru's the one in the middle, and he's been, Anaru and Alex, both from Healthy Families South Auckland, have been like so instrumental in getting ARA off the ground, getting us in front of the right people, and just making sure we're doing the best we can for the communities that we're trying to serve. So I love this. Who are you actually designing for? And when you consider this through an Indigenous lens, that might be the unseen, the unheard, the marginalised, the groups that are usually locked out of the process. And we see that a lot all the time in our community. Back in South Auckland, like an example, there's this big project going on, and I don't think I can give too many details on it. But there's this big project going on, and they're looking at regeneration of a park that's in Manukau City. And one of the ideas that have come forward is this big playground, like a big structural playground. I think it's valued in the millions. And the community are kind of like, but that doesn't cater to our needs. And in fact, we don't even like our kids playing in that area. So why are you putting this massive structural playground in a space that, you know, we're probably not going to use? There's other things we can be doing in that space, and like whether that's planting, I don't know, community gardens, or having different kind of sculptures or different interactions happening. You know, it's like a really good example of a disconnect between, you know, what people think you need but what you actually need, which is why I love working with Anaru and them, because they're always like the first question, who is this designed for? So one of the other questions we get asked all the time is, how do you come up with these ideas? And in ARA, we have like a real open kind of format concept, and generally like 10 times in a meeting, one of us will come out and be like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if, and it kind of just flows from there, and then someone else will be, yeah, but wouldn't it be cooler if? And so this is kind of how we come up with our ideas, and we package those ideas up, and that's when we head out to Angaru, and they're like, oh, we thought it would be cool if, and stuff, pitch the idea to them. And then what's really great with our partnership with them is because they're so engrossed in community and with the schools and the education system and teachers and the iwi out there, they know exactly who we need to be talking to, so that we're sure and they're sure that we're designing for the right people, for the right reasons. We're building things that people want, rather than kind of running off on our own little tangent, building these things because we think they're cool, and then coming back into these communities and going, oh, guess what, we've done this, and they've kind of been like, oh. So that's been really, really how we've started working with community in that co-design space, and making sure that, I think one of the biggest things that Angaru is really, really passionate about is making sure that Māori and Indigenous people see themselves in the design. Because if they don't feel that they can relate to it, or they see themselves in that space, then they don't connect in that, and then you don't get that repeat engagement, you don't get the traction that you want, we don't get the exposure we want, and we don't get the data we want, which means we're not having that real impact that we want. So that was one of his big pushes, and yeah, for him it's like crucial for providing tech pathways for our own rangatahi too, because they can see themselves in that tech that we're building, and then they can come in the future and make things like 10 times better than what we're creating now. So I think just like wrapping up, how gamers and mobile games can be used to guide economic change and generate real world outcomes. Well, it comes back to that 1 + 1 = 3. The data collection from one gamer playing one game contributes to the health and well-being of the collective of an entire community, even though it's just you, the game, your data. But when you put that all together as one, that's where you have impact. I think that if we had everyone gaming, they're learning, they're educating themselves, they're seeing that reconnect back to te taiao, to their natural environment, and they're wanting to make that change. And at that same time, we're creating this rich data source that can be shared and used and shared with policymakers, so they don't go and waste millions of dollars on parks that no one's going to use. And so they can better allocate their resources and connect better with the communities that they're trying to help. We're collecting data from the people whose lives are affected by decisions that are made by people that don't know them. And I think that's where that impact is right there. It's like, let's get the right information in front of the right people so that we can make a change and have an impact in this world. So a couple of the things we're working on that's in that data collection space. Tairāwhiti is our newest game that's designed to be played actually without your phone. So you can set it to run, put it in your pocket, and if you're going on a run or you're going for a walk or you're jumping on public transport, you're actually collecting tokens along the way, you're playing games. Those tokens all relate to historical stories for that area, and you can replay them when you get home, or if you are like casually strolling and you want to replay them, you can augment it and a character will come out and tell you that story. The cool thing with Tairāwhiti is that you collect real-time rewards. So those rewards that you're collecting by listening to stories can actually be used at local business or local organisations who have subscribed to the platform. So we're trying to drive economic growth to local business and tourism operations through that platform. Ahika Rangers, which you saw play previously, collecting data in your own backyard, tracking environmental changes and connecting as a community. And with Manu, I thought Isaac in his interview for Matariki sums up where we're heading with Manu really quite nicely. So I'll just play you this last video.
So Manu is all about using digital tech to tell our stories and about connecting people with the environment and with the tohu that are all around us. Tohu being, Matariki being one of them, as well as other stars, our moon cycles, our lunar phases, the marama-papa, as well as our ngahere, our manu, all these things were tohu that told us what was going on in our environment. It's a signal of the new year. We've designed a 3D character manu who, using augmented reality, pops up at different locations and tells a whakapapa of that area. So he's become kind of a 21st century wayfinder to direct our people and tourists around the locations, tell the stories, and then direct them on to other locations. They'll see manu telling a story about matariki. And they'll see stars rising, the moon rising, and also kumara, and the importance of that time of year preserving kumara as a source of kai for our people. Try watching some of your own favorite vegetables. Like my favorite, kumara. We're hoping that we can reconnect our people with Te Tairāwhiti and with our whakapapa, with our histories. And a big part of that is understanding those tohu around us, matariki, what matariki actually means, or puanga, or rehua, all these different star clusters, as well as the marama-papa. So our traditional knowledge enabled us to thrive prior to colonisation, and we believe that traditional knowledge will enable us to thrive again. So we're hoping that the experiences that we're building will inspire our rangatahi coming up to strive for excellence, to use technology not only for playing games and things, but to actually use it for being Māori and showcasing the things that make us unique as a people. So I love this whakatauki, ka whakatō muri te haere whakamori. And it basically represents walking into the future with our eyes on the past. For me, means using these tools, technology, to be able to tell the stories of our past and remember the things that enabled us to thrive as Māori.
And that's me. Thank you for listening. Oh, any questions? No?
Yeah, just one. In Google Maps, recently I've gone there, you've been walking directions, to show directions and you bring it up. It's like augmented reality running in there now, and it'll show you what's going on, turn it around. And it seemed like a bit of a steep change that's happened just recently. Is that sort of something that is working in the background and what you're doing as well?
We're using some of the APIs from Google Maps, but only in terms of location, not the augmented features that they have in there. We're trying with Tairāwhiti we're actually testing with Tairāwhiti the response that we'll get if we took the device away from the actual gaming situation. So people could just be to go out on their activities without, like you're walking around like this all the time. Which is something we're quite keen to test, but at that same time, the phone can vibrate in your pocket as you hit a cultural story. So you can get it out if you want to, or you can collect that story and go home and listen to it.
Amber, what about things like Google Glasses and, that's, I guess, the next step where instead of us looking like this, we'll just be built in, I guess. Is that something that you guys are, I guess, excited about, or is that, what does that look like for you guys?
We're really, Google Glasses has been at the forefront for us for, I think, a year and a bit now. We haven't really looked at how we could use that technology in the outdoor space, especially with traveling, only because of the safety around it. Sorry. And that's something we have to be careful with the citizen science projects too, is the safety around, we don't want, although that game's designed for an older kid to adult kind of age group, we still don't want 15-year-olds, close to water trying to collect this data for us because they're going to get points in the game. But what we are looking at with the Google Glasses and that mixed reality kind of technology is we're working on a project at the moment in collaboration with the University of Auckland that's looking at how we put that technology into stroke rehabilitation. Yeah, so looking at Indigenous knowledge in that space for stroke rehab, and particularly for our ARA, mostly Māori and Pacifica, because there's quite a high rate of stroke patients in those cultures, and how we kind of connect their rehab journey with their whānau. yeah, I think that's all I can say on that one. Sorry.
Use the mobile network, or can it work with mine?
It requires you to be on a mobile network, but with 5G coming into play, we're actually in the process of shifting everything into the cloud so that you no longer have to download the apps. You can actually stream straight from the cloud. So we're doing a bit of work with Amazon Web Services in that space at the moment.
Do you always have, say, your own development team? So you talk about your code design with community and basically come up with ideas. Do you have your, is it an inbuilt team that you have that does all the mobile apps?
Yeah, so we're 100% Māori owned and operated.
Awesome.
We try and keep our dev positions open to Māori and Pacifica, first and foremost. Not always possible, but yeah, that's the way we kind of see ARA working. Is we want to grow capability in this space for, you know, for our Māori kids coming through. So we try and start the new positions that we got coming up at junior levels so that we can grow them as we grow the company. So eventually those kids that are signing up, or those students that are coming in as interns, taking junior positions with us, can grow their capability and their skill set with the company, and then eventually become the managers of the company. So that's kind of how we want to run ARA.
And what's the position you currently have in your team? So do you kind of have into mobile application, project manager, tester? Do you have those kind of roles in the software development you're doing in the mobile space?
Not so much testers, but that's only because our CTO, Ben, is quite well known in the New Zealand gaming ecosystem. So he can kind of reach out to quite a few people to pull testers in, and the way he kind of builds and designs the game architect or the game environment has minimal kind of testing requirements. It's actually quite clever how he builds it. But in terms of positions, so Ben heads all the development team, and our devs and our tech artists, they report through to him, and then our interns will either sit alongside him or he'll pair them up with our other software engineer.
What's your coverage over New Zealand? What sort of plan do you have to bring in more content, like for, you know, around here, the opportunity to make this sort of available? What's your plan around that?
So the Manu Maramataka journey, that's currently in, don't quote me on this, I think it's 60 locations across New Zealand and in Australia, as well as he may still be in Hawaii, I'm not sure. And that's just the generic showcase piece to show people what we can do. We're working with iwi, particularly in the Tairāwhiti platform, on how we shape their content for them and their stories for them, and then embed that in that platform to kind of grow out the stories for each little individual community across the country. Tairāwhiti, yeah, we're doing the stories. Oh, Tairāwhiti is also designed for user-generated content. So in that platform, even though we're collecting the historical stories of that community or that location, we're also enabling the kids to upload their own content and their own stories. It'll be fully moderated, and then our gamers get to vote which stories they want to see embedded in the game.
Any other questions? Thanks, Adam. That was awesome.
Thank
Thanks
you.
everyone for attending. Appreciate you guys being out for the second event of the week, event of the day. Please feel free to come check out some of the other events, and while Adam's around, feel free to tap on the shoulder and pick your brain. Cool. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.